Hello everyone, welcome into the channel. My name is Justin Delicio. I'm a senior at Newman University, and I'm a part of the personal branding course. As mentioned in the first episode, we are doing a content creation series. It'll last for 10 weeks. Every single piece of content will be found on my website, jdelicio44.wixsite/mysite. There'll be blogs, vlogs, and even podcasts like this. This will be the second podcast, and it's the third week. So you can find last week's podcast on the channel. You can go to the website and find the other pieces of content. But today's content is going to be very hypothetical. So if that's not your style, if you don't like hypothetics, it's time for you to get out of here now. So I love to watch basketball. I try to watch basketball every night. I know I watch every Sixers game, but I try to keep up with the rest of the league as well. Last week I was watching the Houston Rockets take on the Washington Wizards, and I got this idea for this video. And I was just thinking to myself, what if the Houston Rockets, what if all of their players were in their prime? Now, I know that's extremely hypothetical, but just imagine, for the sake of this podcast, which made me ask the question, would the Houston Rockets win the 2021 NBA Finals if all of their people were in their prime? Now, we gotta start by saying that the Houston Rockets were very close to a championship. They had a great roster, led by the now Sixers president, Daryl Morey. But unfortunately for them, they ran into a super team in their conference, the Golden State Warriors, who you could argue to be the greatest team of all time. But undoubtedly, they're a top 3 team of all time. And in our generation, they're the best we've seen. No team could stop them. We've seen that. The only time they were stopped were by the Toronto Raptors when Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant were both hurt. The Houston Rockets had to play the prime Golden State Warriors 3-4 straight seasons, and they were the closest team to ever beating them. The Rockets were the only team to give them a chance. They took them to 7 games, and they lost. They came up just short. They had James Harden, Chris Paul, a bunch of other pieces, and they came up short. So it was time to rebuild. James Harden wanted out. Chris Paul got out of there a couple years ago. Russell Westbrook got out this season. And it's a new-look team. They have some talented pieces, but a lot of their pieces are a little bit past their prime. And I'm starting to think, what if they were in their prime? Their starting lineup would look like this. John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Eric Gordon, Demarcus Cousins, and Christian Wood. The first 4 that I mentioned are a little bit past their prime, so when I'm diving into this team, I'm going to look at past seasons of them. Christian Wood is in his prime right now. He's having the best season of his career. I know Demarcus Cousins' face isn't on the thumbnail picture, but if we're putting everyone in their prime, he undoubtedly in the starting lineup. He averaged the most points per game out of anybody in their prime from the starting 5. I know there might be questions whether or not Boogie Cousins and Christian Wood could coexist, but if you recall, when Cousins was in his prime, he actually did get traded to the New Orleans Pelicans, and he teamed up with another all-star big man, Anthony Davis. Now, Anthony Davis is far superior to Christian Wood, but that team actually did see success. Cousins got hurt before the playoffs, but the team made a little playoff run, and when Cousins and Davis were on the floor together, it worked well. And considering the surrounding talent, I think Christian Wood and Boogie Cousins could work well in Houston. I was unable to find a statistic that would tell me what an average NBA starting 5 will score, but I did look into it, and the 2021 Nets, who score the most points in the league, their starting 5 averages 102.5 points per game. This Houston Rockets hypothetical team, with John Wall, Eric Gordon, Victor Oladipo, Christian Wood, and Boogie Cousins, they would average 118.3 points per game, 16 higher than the Nets. I understand that each of these guys most likely were the top scoring option on their team, at least top 2, so putting them together, the numbers may be a little bit less inflated. However, I still think this team will score more than the Nets team, because the Nets scoring is all top heavy. It's carried by the top 3 guys, whereas all 5 of the Houston Rockets in this scenario are averaging 20 plus points per game. Using the Nets is actually an interesting case study because they're trying to prove that defense doesn't matter too much in the NBA anymore. They're trying to win with big-time scoring. In fact, these Nets are the highest-rated team offensively of all time, while being the lowest rated defensive team of all time. This was as of a couple weeks ago. I don't know if they're still number one all time, but it was crazy to see that they were playing the most efficient offense ever and the least efficient defense ever. But if you look at the Nets, they're a scary team, man. Very scary. And I think this Rockets team would be even more scary with all the scoring that they have. And their defense is no slouch either. I mean, John Wall was all defense in his prime. Victor Oladipo was a plus defender. He even led the league in steals. Eric Gordon can play a little bit of defense. Demarcus Cousins can protect that rim, get a lot of blocks. And this isn't even to mention the bench piece. I mean, they got PJ Tucker on the bench, who is sticking around in the starting lineup in today's game because of his defense. He doesn't really play too much offense, but he's a very good defender, and he can knock down threes. Jayshawn Tate is on their bench. And after watching a few of the Rockets game, I think I actually happened to tune into the last 3 Rockets game because 2 of them were on national TV, and then the third they played the Sixers, which is the home channel. But I have grown to love Jayshawn Tate. I think he's going to be a very solid NBA player, especially off the bench on a championship team. He'd be very valuable. Daniel House is on that team. He gets some starting minutes, but in this scenario, he would definitely be coming off the bench. He was on that Harden-led team. He learned under Harden. I think he'd be a very valuable piece to have on that bench. And then come trade deadline, buyout season, they even add even more pieces. So, amazing starting 5, good bench. That's a recipe for a championship team. The shooting, you got to remember everyone's in their prime. So Oladipo's knocking down threes. Demarcus Cousins is knocking down threes. Eric Gordon's knocking down threes. That was his specialty back then. Christian Wood, he can hit them here and there. John Wall hits them here and there. So threes, bench, high scoring, recipe for a championship team right there. I'm really interested in what the narrative of this team would be, especially coming into the season and throughout the regular season. We see the Utah Jazz right now, who have the NBA's best record, and they're the hottest team in the league. They're winning every single game they play, it feels like. And they're not getting the respect because they have flunked in the playoffs. They don't really have any championship experience. So in a conference with the teams like the Lakers, who are the reigning champions, and the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard, who just won the Finals MVP a couple years ago, you see those teams getting more respect than a team like the Utah Jazz. And a team like the Houston Rockets, who not only have failed in the playoffs, but now with this new look team, they don't have any playoff experience, any championship experience, I should say. Experience aside, hypothetical aside, I'm taking this team to win the 2021 NBA Finals. How do you think they would do? Do you think it would be a big failure, or do you think this team would be able to mesh together even with all the talent? Please let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're looking forward to more videos like this, leave a like. Thank you guys. Take it easy.